Why would I change when I can just take a tablet? There are a few things that really, really fucking irritate me. And this is one of them. And it falls under a whole series of, in different formats, but the same kind of concept from people. It falls under the concept of, what's the point of life if I can't have insert vice, chocolate, wine, pizza, junk food, social media, TV, etc., etc. Why would I change if I can just take a tablet? Why would I do every day if I can do just 3 times a week? Like, all these kinds of things. That there's a definitive difference between optimizing function and choosing the easiest way, and avoiding work, avoiding doing the things that are required. See, most people could completely change their lives, could achieve things beyond their wildest dreams in a very short period of time, if you're willing to pay the price. But the problem is that most people don't want to pay the price. We spoke about this the other day. I can't fathom it as a choice, but if you're not going to do the work, if you're not going to sacrifice what is necessary, at least stop pretending that one day you will. At least free yourself from that as an obligation, as a choice, as a thought process, and just admit that you're not going to do it. I have way more respect for people who are at least honest about that is the situation than pretending. But within that, it still irks me. And I had this conversation with someone today, and they could tell that they'd hit a fucking nerve on this one, because they were like, oh, well, I have this really bad reflux kind of thing, and it's 100% diet related. It gets way worse when I drink, when I eat junk food, when I eat the things that I know I shouldn't, all that kind of stuff. And I could fix it by changing how I eat and how I drink and all this kind of stuff. Or I could just pop this tablet and continue to live the life that I want and the way that I am. Why wouldn't I make that choice? I was like, because it's clearly bad for you. It's clearly negatively affecting your life. And popping a tablet isn't addressing the issue. It's covering up the issue. It's a fucking Band-Aid. And people, it really gets to me, because it's like, just be a fucking adult. Be an adult and make adult decisions. And you sound like a child when you're like, oh, but I want to have the things I like and enjoy. I need them in my life. Otherwise, what's the point of my life? Well, maybe to be a fucking adult and not abuse the shit out of them. Like, to make adult decisions and go, well, maybe drinking alcohol, maybe eating shit that's not good for me should be a sometimes thing. Like a legit sometimes thing, not every single fucking day. But that's a mind-bogglingly statement, My father is a prime example of this, and, I lit him up on this one. That he was always like, oh, I don't trust doctors, I'm never going to take any pills, I'm not going to do that kind of thing, they're the devil, they just want to shove you on medication and all this kind of stuff, and rah, rah, rah. Lo and behold, we reach a situation where the doctor was like, oh, well, you need to go on statins. That's a different fucking argument altogether, but you need to go on a statin. And he's like, but you won't have to change your lifestyle. Or, you'll have to give up these things and start exercising and start eating better and all this kind of stuff. And my dad flipped on his so-called morals in a heartbeat. I was like, okay. Even though, myself friends of his, other doctors were like, oh, they're really bad for you. You shouldn't be on statins. They're fucking terrible. There's a whole list of things that are wrong with it. But it meant that he got the opportunity to continue doing the things that he wanted to do, to continue living the way that he quote unquote enjoys, even though it's killing him. And this is the problem, that people are so adverse to anything that is remotely hard these days. Anything that is slightly uncomfortable, that if you are presented with, even with negative consequences, an option that means you don't have to change. You don't have to give up your vices. You don't have to give up doing the things that you quote unquote need to do to enjoy your life, and you can continue living the way you will sacrifice all of that. And I just find that absolutely mind-boggling. And I've spoken about this before, that I would 100% be an obese, alcoholic, potentially drug addict if I didn't make the choices that I make. And, I had a friend commented on the other day when we were having dinner together. He was like, you'd be a fatty, wouldn't you? And I was like, oh, easily. I love food. I've always loved food. I've always had a massive fucking appetite. I'm known for how much food that I eat. And I have to make a definitive, as I said, adult fucking choice about what matters more. And what matters more is my wife, my children, the people I help, and my future. These things matter way more than my ability to fucking stuff my barkhole with food. My ability to just be like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and nom 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 and hide from the fucking world with cheap dopamine hits. That stuff matters more. And it's why I talk about that you need to have a clear and honest look at your life. As I said, I think it's sad that some people, and my father is one of them, that he's like, well, my life is not worth living without my ability to have chocolate. It is not worth living if I can't eat the way I want to eat. And I always come back to this, and it scares me how many times I've had this conversation with people. And they're like, my life's not worth living without those things. Like, what's the point of life if you can't have those things? And I was like, especially with my father, I was like, I don't know, maybe your wife, your children, your grandchildren, your friends, these kinds of things might make life worth living. No. Without my Cadbury chocolate. And I've had this discussion with many people, and it's the same. And I was like, at that point, we need to have some serious self-reflection. And I think this is one of those things that most people lack on a scary fucking level. They lack introspection. They lack the ability to look inside and actually take a harsh look on life. That's why they hide. That's why they sedate. That's why they choose these kinds of things. Because, well, that's easier and that's more comfortable than facing where you're actually at. Facing what's going on in your life. Facing the reality of, well, maybe your life is a little bit sad. Maybe your life is a little bit shit. Maybe you've made the wrong choices along the way. Because remember, your life is a direct reflection of your thoughts, habits, and actions. If you don't like where you're at, make different choices. It's wild, I know. Wild to think that if you made a different choice, maybe life would be a bit different. Shocking. But people want to hide. They want to sedate. They want to blame others for where their life is. It's not my fault. It's my genetics. It's not my fault. I'm just too busy. I'm too stressed. This happened, that happened. Cool. And I've spoken about this before, the victimhood of society at the moment. That, oh, woe is me. It's not my fault that I am this way. It is. And even if you want to argue the extremes, I had a guy who was like, well, is it my fault that I got hit by a car who ran a red light? And I'm like, no, you're right. that shit isn't your fault. What you do next is, what happens after that is, you are directly in control of what transpires after that. So, yeah, if you stay stuck in that, it is your fault. No, if something horrendous happens to you and it was completely out of your control, no, that is not your fault. But staying stuck there, blaming it for your circumstances, all that kind of stuff is your fault. And therefore you need to make different choices. Therefore you need to make a different decision. As I said, most things in life are plausible if you're willing to sacrifice enough. It just comes down to, what are you willing to sacrifice? And being brutally honest with yourself around those things. And you might not be willing to make all the sacrifices to have everything you want. But at least be honest about it. At least have the honest to God conversation about it. Have some introspection on it. And go, that is important to me, but not more important than X. And as I said, because I got pushed back on this once before, and people were like, oh, well, you're saying then, if I'm honest that the chocolate or the alcohol or whatever it is more important, and I'm honest about it, that's okay. And I'm like, it's better. It's not fucking okay. It's better. But then you need to take a deeper look and go, why is that more important than living my best life? Why is that more important than being the best version of myself, the greatest version of myself for my wife, for my kids, for my family, for those around me? Why is those things that we know are bad for us, we know are cheap dopamine, we know are just straight up fucking sedation, and that, let's be real here, the majority of the time past the moment we will regret that decision. Why is that worth more than being the greatest version of yourself? Why is that worth more than kicking it down the line and choosing something that is going to bring fulfillment, satisfaction, joy, long-term happiness? Why is that cheap dopamine, that reprieve, that little glimmer of happiness in that moment worth more than actually building something of value? That is the question that needs to be asked. Like, I was having a discussion with a friend about this. I don't know if it's actually possible. My goal is to live to 120 because I want to be around for as long as humanly fucking possible for my kids, for my grandkids, hopefully great-grandkids, and so on and so forth. I want to live for as long as possible. Emphasis on fucking live, though. Not exist. Not be some broken dude in a nursing home. No, the ability to actually live, but for as long as possible. So therefore, I'm willing to pay that price now that will allow me to do those things. I'm willing to pay that price that will give me the opportunity for that. That matters more. That matters way more than anything else could. That ability to pursue it, the ability to have the opportunity to undertake that, but also to lead by example along the way. People are like, oh, health and fitness isn't that important. It's literally the vessel that allows you to live your life. This meat suit that you wander around in is what allows you to do everything else in your world. Gives you the energy, the focus, the capacity, all that kind of stuff to undertake what you want to undertake. It kind of matters that it works well. It kind of matters that it's effective. It kind of matters as to what you're able to do. And you're also setting an example. Like, I want my kids to grow up thinking that exercise and good nutrition is the normal. And I think I've already done a good job, and we're going to keep reiterating that. My kids find it weird that people don't exercise every day. My kids find it weird that people don't eat the way we eat. That's how you want it to be. You want to establish this really early on, that this is normal. So they don't have to learn those lessons down the track. They don't have to get to a point of going, well, I'd rather take a pill than actually address what's going on in my life. I'd rather put a Band-Aid on it. I'd rather put my head in the sand. I'd rather do these things than actually go, how can I improve my life? And I got this question the other day and people were like, but how long do I have to do this for? And this is the daunting answer that fucks with people's heads. Forever. Forever. But also, why would you not want to do it forever? And this is where you need to switch your mindset. This is where you need to have a paradigm shift around what you're doing. Why wouldn't you want to constantly be moving forward, constantly improving, constantly achieving new things, constantly reaching for more? Why wouldn't you want to keep moving the needle forward? Good enough is the death of most people. It's the death of dreams. It's the death of potential. It's the death of everything else. No, keep pushing for more. See what is plausible. See what you can achieve out there. Keep moving the needle forward. Because also that's the point of fucking life. We weren't put on this planet to die at 25 and wait to be buried till 75, which is what most people do. They're just fucking existing, stuffing their face, sedating out, becoming, I don't know if you've seen WALL-E, but the people on the space station in their fucking floating chairs who are addicted to their screens and they don't do anything. That's where we're heading. And most people are not only okay with it, some of them are fucking excited by it. Like, I just can't fathom that as a concept, that you don't want to see what's possible. You don't want to see what is on the other side of that. And you don't want to contemplate the negative consequences of these choices. So like a lot of these drugs, and they're producing more and more, that means you could, not have to exercise, not have to change your nutrition, not have to do these things and lose all the weight. In concept, I think that's a healthy thing, but because people will abuse the shit out of it, because they'll be like, there are no consequences to my actions. That is dangerous as fuck. That's how people abuse it. It's why people who are naturally skinny their entire life often have a higher incidence of diabetes and other health problems, because there's no visual consequences to eating like an asshole. You can just stuff your face, eat like a dick, and you aren't going to suffer the consequences. That's a problem. So they end up with these health conditions because they never have to face the consequence of, well, if I do this, I'll get fat. That's an issue. So producing drugs and things that mean that people can do that, they can suddenly do it without ever exercising, without having those problems, without learning the ability to do hard shit, that is going to cause way more health problems than anything else. And that's an issue, I believe. Because also, the point of life is to do hard things and overcome them. There is no greater joy and satisfaction than undertaking something that you didn't think was possible and coming out the other side victorious. It is what we are built for. It is what we are designed for. It is what gives life meaning. Life, it doesn't derive meaning from choosing the easiest way out. It doesn't derive meaning from avoiding any effort. It doesn't derive meaning from taking all the dopamine we get out of life. All the joy of life comes from consuming something. That's not the point. True satisfaction, true joy, true fulfillment comes from doing hard shit and overcoming. And that's what demanding greatness is about. It's teaching you these skills. It's about developing these things every single fucking day. About overriding your feelings and your thoughts and what would be easier and making the decision that it's going to get done. And also that it's already done. There's a zero choice mentality on that. I said I was going to do this shit, therefore it is getting done. End of story. You want to separate yourself from average, mediocrity? That's it. Like, the bar has never been lower. The bar is on the motherfucking floor when it comes to this stuff. The amount of effort you need to put in to be different is so little. The amount of reward you get from making it a shit ton of effort is astronomical. If you're willing to go all in, if you're willing to actually give it everything, if you're willing to sacrifice the unimportant for what will deliver value in the future, that is game fucking changing. And as always, it's not just about you. It is about your wife, your children. It's about all those moving forward. That's what truly matters. That's what needs to be focused on. I want my kids to have these skills beyond anything else. I want them to have the ability to overcome, to take pride and joy in hard work, to see how much they can deliver from it. That's what I want them to come out of this life with. If I can teach them that, I know I've succeeded as a parent. Because, well, they're going to be, light years ahead of all the other children. Not this participation, not this, external validation, but the validation and the rewards from doing the work, from showing up consistently to do the work. And I saw it the other day when they were at Jitsu. So at the level they're at, my kids are 3 and 4, you get belts based on participation. They're not really old enough to skill test yet, so they get belts based on this. There's one little girl who's, they're 5. The minimum age for this class should be 5, but my kids have been doing it long enough that they've been bumped up. And she's one of the highest belted kids in the class. And my daughter fucking dominated her the other day. And then another kid dominated her. And so she's throwing tantrums in the corner. And it was about, I'm the highest level. I'm used to getting everything I want. I'm used to winning. But not on skill, not on merit, but because, that's how the world works. She was told that she was special. She was told that she was good enough. She wasn't. And when she got humbled, instead of going, how do I get fucking better? She was like, I'm going to throw a tantrum until you change it for me. And this is the problem. And not enough parents want to teach their kids the value of effort, the value of hard work, the value of showing the fuck up and overcoming. And when you lose and when you're bested, not throwing a tantrum about it, figuring out how to be better. My son, who is only just 3, in this same lesson, they let them fight now, which I think is fucking awesome. I was like, throw her off. And he said to me, but she won't let me win. And I was like, good, now beat her. And the teacher was like, not many parents would say that to their children. And I was like, I'm aware, but I don't want my child to be soft. I don't want my child to expect that he's going to win because he showed the fuck up. No, he needs to win because he earned it. And if he can learn that lesson at 3, the sky's the fucking limit. And that's what this is about. This is what it is about. Not just for your kids, but for you as well. Too many adults don't have these skills either. Too many adults have never, ever learned the skill of doing hard shit, of having to do the work, of having to push through. The ability to do hard things, to overcome, is one of the greatest skills that you will ever learn. And you can learn that from demanding greatness. It's the whole fucking point. It's about getting uncomfortable every single day, about overcoming and making it a zero choice mentality that you are going to win no matter what. So if you're ready to become the greatest version of yourself, if you're ready to step up and see what you are actually capable of and see how that transitions into every area of your life, now is your moment. Now is the time. It's not going to be easy. It is going to require effort. It's going to require discipline. And it's going to require more than you've given for a long time. But that's where the results are going to come from. So if you're ready for that, if you're ready to step up and become the man that you know you should be, then click the link in my bio, shoot me a message, and let's see if you've got what it takes. Because I can't wait to see you then.